can always go to our website, hit Contact Us.
Send us an email.
Right. And we love to do that because we are seeing folks every single week. All of them are listeners.
That's right. Or friends and family of listeners.
Exactly. So that was kind of fun as well. So, again, our phone lines are open. 969-KTRS, star KTRS from your cell phones, or 1-888-550-KTRS. And while we are waiting for your calls, because that's what makes the show fun this morning.
Absolutely.
Why don't we get into our first topic, which is, should I roll over my 401k to an IRA? So, rollover is really a slang term, right?
For direct transfer, trustee to trustee transfer.
Right, because there are ways that you can take money from a 401k and or 403b, generally, simple IRA, and move it to a traditional IRA.
Or a 457 even.
Exactly. You can take the money out. They generally make you withhold taxes, and then you can make a deposit. That's a dumb way to do it. Second way that you can do is if you want, you can set up what we call direct transfer. You set up a new IRA plan. What you do is you have the trustee of your 401k, 403b, 457, directly transfer that money to
your
new IRA.
Privately held IRA.
We call that a tax-free transfer because it's a non-taxable event, which is cool. And the real question becomes, does this make sense? And as I was saying before, the DOL rule really is what this was, is really what
the impetus behind this.
Yes, because what happens is you hear that this is the greatest transfer of wealth between generations. That point, that decision time, when someone says, I'm going to take money from a retirement plan, corporate-sponsored retirement plan, and move it to an individual plan, is really maybe one of the biggest financial events that most folks do during their lifetime.
Absolutely.
And the government naturally wants to make sure that this is being done in a effective as well as an efficient way. So take it from there.
Yeah, well, really the reason behind why this is the largest transfer of wealth in history is because the previous generation didn't have to save for their own retirement in the way that baby boomers have had to begin to save for their own retirement. Pensions and Social Security generally made up the majority of anyone's cash flow needs in retirement in previous generations. And with the creation of the 401k and as less companies are providing traditional pension plans, individuals are now having to save for their own retirement, so they're really building this wealth over the course of their entire working career, and now the decision has to come, what do I do with it in many different situations? Doesn't necessarily have to be on the day of retirement.
And so the DL rule really was designed to protect consumers, that is investors, from a lot of things, right? At the time this transaction, is it appropriate?
Exactly. What are the implications of it when you're doing these things?
Are you going to a low or the lowest cost expense environment?
Right. What are your options? What are your fees? All of those things need to be discussed up front. And with that, we thought we would talk about a couple of examples of individuals, starting off with Joe. Joe just changed jobs, and he has $142,000 in his prior employer's 401k plan. He also has an IRA of $65,000 from another past employer. So he's been employed in a couple of places, and now he's moving on to a third employer. What are his options?
Well, again, I think what's important here is we will talk about the options, but let's also talk about the criteria that Joe should be considering, as well as if Joe does happen to be have a financial advisor that he's working with, that they would consider, right? Right.
So the first option is, what are the breadth of investment options available to him in his new employer's 401k plan, or in his previous employer's 401k plan where the larger sum of money is sitting?
Because we know that there obviously are a myriad of transfer options that could occur, right?
Absolutely, which we will get to. The second criteria would be, what are the investment fees in the funds in all of the different areas in which you're looking, your employer's policy, your previous employer's policy, 401k plans, and then also in your current IRA that you rolled that other 401k into.
And we've discussed this several times where we've seen situations where one employer-sponsored plan offering the same mutual funds, which most plans do, may have a lower fee environment than another one.
Right, because there are wrap fees associated with 401k plans, and those can vary between the different plan sponsors.
Right. So naturally, it's important to try to find, especially if we like something, if you like a certain brand of cereal, why pay more for it? Exactly. So what happens is that we want to be very much focusing in on fees as well as investment options.
And the third criteria to consider is, do you want or need investment advice?
And that is, are you going to engage a financial advisor, a professional in that particular way? Aaron and I are what are considered registered investment advisor representatives. We are investment advisors working through a investment advisory firm. We have the capacity to charge fees. So are you working with someone who has the capability of charging fees, or are they a commission-based person?
Important things to consider. Also, are you someone that wants advice in any form, or do you like to make your own investment decisions?
Right. And that would be a big one. A really big one, and then obviously where you're taking the money to should follow that as well.
Exactly, because even once you've retired, if you're someone that wants to manage their own funds, their own money, make their own investment decisions, it makes sense to go to a lower cost option, not using an investment advisory firm where you would be charged the fee. You want to go back to a transactional relationship where you're charged ticket charges for making those decisions.
Yeah. So, Aaron, what are a couple of the options that Joe has available to him?
So the first option is Joe can move all of his 401ks to an IRA.
A single one, right?
Exactly. So
in this particular case, he could move that $142,000 from his prior plan to his existing IRA.
That has the $65,000.
And that would help him too, wouldn't it?
Exactly, because he would only have one custodial fee now.
There you go.
He would also have a very wide breadth of investment choices. He can choose from mutual funds, ETFs, individual securities, index funds, REITs, CDs, annuities, truly whatever the custodian allows. Some custodians allow physical gold or real estate.
Right.
So you have whatever the custodian allows, you would be able to hold inside of your IRA, whereas with 401k plans, you're limited to the choices that are available through the plan sponsor.
That's correct. And that's important. The other thing is that we want to look at fees, right?
Exactly, because in many cases, fees are lower inside of your 401k.
Yes, because in many cases, we have found that we're using institutional class share funds inside of a 401k.
Instead of retail funds.
Right, no-load funds.
Exactly. Which means you don't pay an upfront charge to invest your money. All of your money is invested on day one.
Or load wave funds, right?
Right, which are funds that have loads for everyone else, but the fund company waives them for you inside of the 401k. So again, all of your money is being invested right away.
Yeah, and generally, if you're working for an employer that has a plan that total plan assets are in excess of $1 million, then what happens is you're not really even paying wrap fees. Because what's occurring is that the investment funds themselves are kicking back money to the plan sponsor for having them on their platform. And most folks aren't, they probably know that intuitively.
Is that part of the 12B1 fee that
exactly.
is charged?
And 12B1 fees are generally associated with load fund family mutual funds, but also there are still other contractual arrangements with no-load families. Like if you have Vanguard as an example, or a lot of Fidelity funds, they're on the platform. Well, they're paying to be on the platform. Right. And so they're kicking something that, even though they don't have an actual 12B1 fee
associated with them.
Yes.
And then the final thing would be if you decide to roll all of that money into an IRA, you might want advice. So you currently are working with an investment professional and you would like to use their services as opposed to making those choices on your own inside of a 401k.
And that's going to be a real key criteria here. And for many folks, we know that as they get closer to retirement, their assets are swelling, they're growing. They may be getting to a point where they're looking up and saying, you know what, when it was $100,000, it wasn't a big deal, but now if I'm up to $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, I'm getting ready to eventually move this money so that it can really create a base of income stream for them. I'm not sure if I really